sports and fitness facility. Thank you for coming to our wellness or our healthy workshop on TechNeck. Hopefully you guys learned something. We're going to do some interesting activities here in a little bit. So how many of you have heard the term TechNeck or text neck or upper cross syndrome is another common? Heard of upper cross syndrome? Okay. Can you kind of explain what that is, or?
When your posture is like this, so your neck is like a line like that, for very long periods of like years, you develop this posture like
So
this.
as he explained, it's posture where heads move forward, shoulders are rolled forward. Pretty poor posture, and if you do it for extended periods of time, lead to a lot of pain and other issues later on down the road. What does this look like to anybody?
Crazy.
Do what?
Crazy.
Yeah. Well, but imagine if I was sitting down at a computer desk. Look pretty normal, right? So who here has a cell phone? Yeah, right? So that's what's considered screen time. So screen time would be considered being on a cell phone, being watching TV, computer, anything along those lines. How's it going?
Interrupt real quick. I'm with the Department of Health and Safety, and if it's not technology related, we also do ergonomic for staff, offices. And here's my cards. If you all need an ergonomic assessment, if you're staff or faculty join us,
Great.
we can also provide some relief.
Great. Thank you. What was it? Okay. So screen time. So does anybody want to take a guess at, on average, how many hours a day an American adult spends interacted or engaged in media or a screen of some sort?
6 hours?
No.
I was going to say 8.
I would say good 10, 8 or 10.
It's 11.
Oh, yeah.
It 4 years ago it used to be 9.5 hours. So with the emergence of cell phones and digital media and everything like that, that number is increasing exponentially. So that's something people in the physical therapy and chiropractic world are having to deal with and figure out how to counteract those things and help fix people's posture as well as make them feel better. And just another statistic for you, and this one's specifically for millennials, but on average, how much time do you think a millennial spends on their phone per day?
How many hours a day? 24?
So it's surprising. I thought it's a little bit over 2 hours. Yeah, I know. I don't know how long ago this was taken. The study was done a couple years ago. And these were done by the Nielsen Group, so they're pretty prevalent in doing that kind of stuff. But just some interesting numbers to think. Game Boys, Palm Pilots, PDAs, Nintendo DS, all that stuff. The Switch, I think that's the new one. I saw a guy playing one of those on the plane I was on. I was in Boston just recently for a trip, and I saw this gentleman playing a video game, and he was like this the entire flight. So I was kind of just sitting there knowing I had this presentation coming up thinking, oh man, like, I know, I was like, man, I wonder if I should say something, but then you want to talk to strangers about, like, hey, your posture's messed up, you should probably fix it. But, I see it everywhere, and now, unfortunately, once I explain this to you guys, you're going to see it everywhere too. I'm sorry. I'm releasing the veil. So we're going to watch a quick video.
Neuroradiologist Stephen Fullon spends his days looking at the inner workings of your head, neck, and back.
We evolved to move. We did not evolve to sit in a chair. We're not a heron or an egret who stands on one leg, and sit there forever. Humans are designed to move.
Dr. Tony Origer is a chiropractor and athletic trainer who has lately been diagnosing patients with what's called TechNeck.
TechNeck is kind of a new repetitive strain injury that we're seeing more and more in the clinic. And just from the repetitive use of a patient looking down, and they start developing a repetitive strain in their upper back and their neck.
In your upper back, and it's all because your head is so heavy.
In a neutral position, your head weighs typically about 12 pounds. So if it's over your shoulders, so your body's designed to handle that weight. But as the head starts to go forward, that increases the amount of force that's applied to your neck and upper back. So sometimes it increases that from 12 pounds to almost 24 to 30 pounds. So your upper back is really having to overwork to try and compensate for that posture.
What can you do to avoid TechNeck? Surprisingly, technology is one answer.
Having an alarm on your phone to move is good, or just getting up and walking around every 20 minutes, or changing your workstation from sitting to standing every hour. And those are all good things.
Just starting a good postural training program where you develop strength in your upper back and in your neck, and squeezing your shoulder blades back and down, working with a physical therapist or a chiropractor to work on developing some basic exercises that you can do to help strengthen your upper back and neck.
So unless you're ready to cut back on screen time, here's one simple tip that can help.
The underlying thing behind TechNeck and any other of the environmental ergonomic issues come back to people not moving. And so if you get up and move around, you'll be better off.
So, what do we think? I mean, is that something that potentially could be harmful moving forward? Especially with those statistics earlier, things that they discussed, that could lead to some serious issues later on. It causes, in an upright posture, when the ears are aligned with the center of your shoulders, and the weight of the average head exerts approximately 10 to 12 pounds of force through the muscles of the neck. So remember in the video they said the further you lean forward, the more and more weight is actually, so it would be equated to basically hanging 34 pounds of weight from your neck and doing that every single day for hours and hours and hours. So it's no wonder our people start to develop pain in the back of their neck or kinks in their neck, or especially in their upper back, because a lot of these muscles up here are connected together and they help support the head and neck. So when your head is moved forward by just 1 inch away from its neutral position, the weight of your head dramatically increases. Approximately 6 times as much force can be generated. If left untreated, TechNeck can lead to inflammation of the neck ligaments, nerve irritation, and increased curvature of the spine. So here's just a diagram essentially. This one goes all the way up to 60 pounds. So how many of you see that every day on campus though? Or not even on campus necessarily, but just driving down the street or in your work, classes, wherever. Yeah, it's become pretty prevalent. It's actually clearly something that needs to be taken care of. So who here has any of these symptoms? So stiff neck, That can be soreness or difficulty moving, pain, which can be localized or radiating, going further on down into your back, radiating pain, going in even into your shoulders or arms, muscular weakness, i.e. Your shoulder muscles traps, which would be these up here, and they feel weak. Or this is the most common one, is headaches and suboccipital actually means right back here. So if you start to get headaches kind of at the base of your head and neck where they connect together, has anybody ever experienced anything like that? No, I do all the time. And I tried to counteract these things. So it's something we all need to do a little bit better job being conscious of and counteracting. So luckily, we're going to do some activities and do some movements that'll hopefully help you guys counteract these, and you can help other people. So we're going to do a partner posture assessment activity. So I would like you guys to pair up. Not everybody at once.
Or have an odd number.
I can go with somebody too.
I'll go with somebody.
Yeah.
I'm pairing.
So, pair up, you can just go to the person next to you. We're going to be standing up for this. One person is going to just stand like they normally would, try and keep comfortable. Then the other person is going to stand to the side of them. There you go. So, I would be looking at her like this. So, perpendicular. So, I'm going to be looking at her this way. Correct. So what we're actually going to be looking for here is those things. Do you guys remember what we talked about? The alignment of the ears over the shoulders, and then also the chin. Look at your partner. Notice their head lean forward a little bit, their shoulders slouch forward a little bit. How do they look? So just you want to look for a straight line from the ear down to the shoulder.
How do I look? I look straight?
Give them some feedback too. And the person who's being evaluated, try not to think about it and adjust. Stand like you normally would.
Okay.
Yeah. So just relax.
Lift my back up for one.
Like you would normally stand. Because it seems like when people get put under the microscope, they tend to.
You have that.
Yeah, exactly.
full
We're like,
stance. Even if you're short and you do this, you show dominance in the room.
So everybody, did anybody notice?
But I never focus on I just.
So did anybody notice anything? This group. Straight? Good. What about this
You
group?
look straight, yeah.
Yeah? Yeah?
We seem okay?
Yeah? Did you guys switch partners?
yeah.
Okay.
We
You guys
did.
did? All right. I switched partners.
You're right. How does it feel? Still natural?
Remember, stay like you normally would. I know once, like I said, once you're under the scope,
I guess.
you tend to.
Yeah.
It does, right? Yeah.
I feel like I'm falling forward like this,
They're perfectly aligned.
but see, I have a curve in my back.
But this is built hard.
It's like you make it away from going back.
It's hard. It's hard to go
Straight.
All right. So this group, did you guys notice anything?
She said that, it's hard to, being on the spot like this, she naturally was holding herself upright.
Tighten up.
And of course, it's perfect but she said it didn't feel natural.
Mhm.
So she knows that she probably deviates a little bit more than she probably should.
With this group.
Same here, I would say the same.
Yeah.
It's like when you were looking, I was like, yeah.
So just imagine, how much more exacerbated that slight slouch gets when we're sitting down at a computer, or imagine if you were on your phone, like doing this. Like, this is how I look at my phone, and it's terrible. Like, it's awful. So you guys can all be seated. Yeah. Well, so we're actually about to get into some ways to counteract it, and just holding your phone up at eye level is one of the simplest ways you can do that.
But then you look crazy the minute.
And you go back.
That way,
Perpetual selfie.
yeah, or also, it could be even, could be even safer, because then you don't have to, you are actually walking where you're going, because,
And looking right, yeah.
I mean, how often do we see in the news nowadays that somebody walked into traffic because they were on their phone, or walked into an open,
I've seen that.
I saw in the news, somebody was walking along the street and they had I don't know if they have them here in Houston, but I know they're big in New York and Chicago. basically they have these big grates that
Yep.
open up, and that's how they get food in and out of restaurants, into the basement, and it's basically their loading dock. And this lady was walking along on her phone, and it was wide open. They had like up cones and everything, and she walked into it and fell in. I think she broke her leg. So just from being absorbed into her phone, and then I hear people getting hit by cars all the time because they're not paying attention and walk into traffic. So holding the phone up here might not necessarily be such a bad idea.
Just get used to it.
So, avoiding it. Prevention is the key when it comes to TechNeck or TechNeck. Following suggestions should be kept in mind when using smartphones or other handheld devices. This could go for Game Boys or what was the one?
Switch.
The Switch, yeah, that was the one we were talking about earlier. So these are just some simple things to keep in mind to help you avoid it and to move towards helping to counteract some of these things. So avoid excessive usage and take frequent breaks. I make it a point to try and get up and walk around my work area at least once an hour, just so I can get up and move around, because sitting at a computer desk for hours and hours on end, one, my eyes start to hurt, and two, I start getting really uncomfortable and have to shift around. So one of the simplest ones you can do, avoid excessive usage and take frequent breaks. So, excessive usage would also be, how many of you are students? Yeah. So if you're studying, make sure you incorporate study breaks. And like they said, using technology as a key to make sure you're facilitating that. So putting down a timer, making sure that you have specifically timed out breaks when you're studying or things of that nature. And that'll help you not only keep your focus and probably keep more energized as you're studying, but it'll help reduce the likelihood of you developing pain later on.
And John, I just learned that the iPhone, I just got an iPhone, don't know how to use it quite yet, but I was told that the iPhone will tell you how long you've used your phone, and it'll tell you in what capacities, and people are shocked to learn that they're spending 8-10 hours a day on their phone, and they don't realize that it adds up. So one is, putting the phone down, not using the phone as much, and track and see if you're using it more than you would like to use it or more than you think, and then work on reducing that number.
Because it has a timer that you can set for like social media, games, and then it will come up and it'll tell you you have 5 minutes remaining. Yeah,
Are you
so
surprised? What usage do you have?
I don't want to say.
So a friend of mine actually has a device on her phone where essentially at 9 o'clock it shuts off, or she can only access certain things type of deal. So there are programs and stuff like that out there, but kind of like what we were talking about at the beginning, 11 hours is that average number. So we want to make sure that we're doing everything we can to reduce screen time. So apparently I didn't realize that your iPhone even tracked that. So we didn't even need a Nielsen study to tell us that we were already using our phones way more than we probably should. Avoid prolonged static postures. So who has problems like sitting still for extended periods of time? Yeah. So I was actually just on a plane the other day for 4 hours, and I had to get up. I was probably driving the stewards crazy because I had to get up and move. I would go to the bathroom, I would go to the back, I would stand, I would sit. I just, especially because those seats I think are way too small. But anyway, avoiding static postures. So static posture is where you sit for an extended period of time. I don't like doing that anyway because I just get really uncomfortable, and also because I know that as I'm sitting in that little tiny seat hunched over like this, it's just wrecking my posture, and I can feel everything getting tight. And we'll get into the specific musculature a little bit later and how to counteract these things. But has anybody else ever experienced that, where you're on an extended flight or a really long car ride and you feel like, oh man, if I don't get out of here, I'm just going to jump out? No? Yeah. So avoiding prolonged static postures, and that doesn't necessarily mean sitting. That could be standing, shifting your weight. Standing is obviously better than sitting, but just moving. As they mentioned in the video, we're designed to move. We're not meant to be complacent and sitting still for extended periods of time. So position the device such that it reduces stress both on the head, neck, and upper extremities. Kind of what you alluded to, holding the phone higher. So as I was doing research for this presentation, apparently they have a device that will hold your phone, and it's a little thing that sits around your neck, and it holds it up
Like that.
like this.
Yeah.
And I was like, all right, that's cool, but like, why would I ever need that unless I was sitting there on my phone for a very, very extended period of time, which is something I want to avoid anyway.
What I
So,
found that helps is my pop socket, because I can hold it like this, and I don't have to look down or whatever. So, without having that contraption, because that would look crazy. This
So-
thing helps.
those are, does anybody else have any ideas or things that we could do to help raise screens? Yeah.
I seen usually when someone always told me tech related, and I seen it with an old man reminds. He always used the phones with both hands. So
Yeah.
that's kind of he always used it like always both hands. He didn't let one hand over the other.
Yeah. Good. Has anybody who here works in an office or at a desk? Has anybody seen a standing desk?
Yep.
Yeah.
No, but when I go to Starbucks, I usually use the higher table ones.
Yeah, that too. So they actually have a device. It's a desk, and it's more of a contraption, if I had to pick a proper word, that goes on top of your normal desk, and you can have it down set low, but it also will adjust to a standing position for you, just so you can keep sitting, standing. That way, you're not necessarily doing one or the other for a very long period of time. There are ways that you can make those adjustments in your workplace, as well as if you're studying in the library and they have high top tables, then by all means go stand at them for a little bit and then pull the chair up. Just make sure you keep changing things up so that you're not sitting still for too long. Avoid high repetitions of movement such as prolonged typing or swiping. So don't just sit there on Instagram for an hour. If you need to text somebody, then by all means, knock it out or what have you. But just sitting there and just scrolling and scrolling and scrolling, which I've been guilty of this before too. And afterwards I'm just like, man, I feel like I wasted some time. So it's I think it's just a negative thing in general, but it also has physical repercussions. We're doing potential permanent damage to our body. So avoid holding larger, heavy devices in one hand for a long duration. So I guess it would depend on, it's interesting to me, I actually just got a new iPhone because I had the 4 or 5, and it finally died on me. And when I walked in there, the guy was, first of all, he was just blown away at the fact that I had a phone that was, 5-10 years old or whatever it was. But I noticed immediately, like, I think I have the 8 now, and it's not even the newest one, and it's the smallest one though. Like the new XS, OS X, I don't even know. There's letters. It's it's huge. It's the size of what would used to be considered a small tablet. So it just interests me how the phones went from we wanted them big, and now we wanted them small. Now we want them the size of a small TV, so that I can see everything better. So especially if you have like a large tablet or something along those lines, holding that tablet and sitting like this is just going to increase more stress. I think I saw somebody on the same flight. Gentleman had an iPad that was, I want to say it was this big. Like I don't know. Do they make them that big? It was massive.
It's so big, but
Yeah.
good size.
Yeah, it blew my mind. Like, it was bigger than the screen on his laptop. That was for sure. And, he was sitting there holding it like this. I was kind of like, and I was thinking to myself, man, that thing I mean, I know it's probably paper thin, but it still has to weigh a lot, and it still is adding more and more stress to those muscles and to the structures in our neck and shoulders. So this is just an example for sitting for avoiding TechNeck. This one actually recommends that you don't sit up straight entirely, you don't sit up completely straight the entire time. You actually let the chair do some work, and by tilting forward, you're actually letting these muscles release in the back of your neck. So letting the chair, hold you up. So most people working at a computer sit up straight, forcing the muscles in the back and neck to contract. As a result, the neck muscles become overworked and they hold up the head hours on end. So it's this position that can lead to some of the neck and shoulder pain we've been discussing. So your chair should recline at least 25 to 30 degrees, allowing you to lean back. Good lumbar support will help keep your back arched, which lessens the weight on the discs. And finally, position your neck so it would fall backward instead of forward if you fell asleep. So I know that's something I've been trying to do better of, because I used to just think that sitting up completely straight was the way to go. But as it states, sitting there holding that position for an extended period of time also gets those muscles tired too. So letting the chair do the work and then relaxing your neck a little bit, because the increased tension by holding it up all that time is also going to tend to start to wear it out. So here's just another little diagram about avoiding and preventing TechNeck. So kind of like what we talked about, holding the phone up at eye level, taking frequent breaks, setting a timer to remind yourself to walk around every 20 to 30 minutes, avoid looking down for extended periods of time, making sure you sit squarely at your workstation, and then here are the signs and symptoms. So, if you start to develop any of these, you may actually want to seek out professional help from, say, a chiropractor or a physical therapist. So, chronic headaches, so what that means is if you are having continuous headaches and they feel like they're at the bottom of your head, just right here where the neck and skull connect. So that is another indicator. Soreness in the neck frequently, tightness or stiffness across the shoulders, numbness or tingling felt in the upper extremities, so like in your arms or fingertips. If you start feeling numbness or tingling here, that's a good sign that probably these muscles are so tight that they're actually starting to push on the nerves that run through here, and that can really develop into a painful problem. Or the numbness, which is even scarier because then you can't move your arm. And then postural change. So, if you start to notice that, like, oh man, I feel like my neck's like kinked over one way, it might be. So these are things, just to be aware of, so that you can avoid it. So next we're going to go into how to resolve TechNeck. So rehabilitation has been found to be very effective in treating the stress injuries resulting from TechNeck. Regular neck movements such as rotations and side bending. There's stretches where we'll stretch the trapezius, which is a triangular muscle that basically runs from here all the way down to here and then across the shoulder blades. Then there's chin tuck exercises, ice and heat packs, and then massage. So if nothing else, this is a good excuse for somebody to get a massage, which we offer at the Student Life Center. Shameless plug. So we'll go over this first video, and these ones you should be able to do in your chair or with minimal standing, and then I've got some other ones that we're going to give you guys. There.
Hi, I'm Dr. Casey Chris with the Rise Your Rehab Centers. And today we're going to be taught by Dr. Casey Chris with the Rise Your Rehab Centers. And today we're going to be talking stretches, strengthening exercises, some stretches.
Oh, it's too, yeah.
So let's start learning about it. All right, so let's learn.
That was weird.
Must have clicked twice.
Okay.
Hi, I'm Dr. Casey Crisp with the Rise to Rehab Centers, and today we're going to be talking about a condition called upper cross syndrome. We're going to be discussing some stretches, some strengthening exercises, and some symptoms that you can have associated with this condition. So let's start learning about it. All right, so let's learn about upper cross syndrome. First thing that we need to understand is syndrome. Syndrome is a big group of symptoms, and it's associated with the upper part of your body. So in upper cross syndrome, let's talk about muscles that are going to be too tight. The muscles that are most of the time going to be too tight are the muscles on the front part of your chest, called your pec, okay? And the muscle on the back part of your neck. The big word, fancy word, is a little later, scap. It goes from the base of your shoulder up into the base of your neck. Then the muscles in the top of your neck are also going to be extremely tight. Okay? Those are most of the muscles that are going to be tight. So now let's talk about the muscles that are going to be weak. The muscles that are going to be weak, there's a big muscle in the back part called your trap. It has three parts, upper, middle, and lower. The lower part is the part that's going to be super weak all the time on people. So now let's talk about some symptoms that can be associated with upper cross syndrome. Let's start with the upper neck. So first things first, you can get headaches. Those headaches that start to come on at the end of the day. You can have neck pain. You can start to have shoulder pain. Some other conditions in the shoulder that you can start to have are conditions called bursitis. Impingement of the shoulder. You can have, we already talked about bursitis, but you can start to get what they call throwing shoulder. Then another one you can have is pain in between your shoulders. So now let's review some stretches and some strengthening that you can do for upper cross syndrome. So let's talk about stretches for upper cross syndrome. The first stretch that we're going to talk about is we're going to work on those muscles in the front part of the chest. So this is what we call a wall stretch. So what you're going to do is you're going to walk up to the wall. You're going to put your hand out to your side. You're going to put your hand on the wall, and then you're going to keep it there, and you're going to slowly turn, and you should feel a stretch in the front part of your arm. Now, one of the things with this is if you start to feel numbness or tingling, you need to stop, because the muscle that we're stretching, a bunch of nerves and arteries run right below that. So that's one of the things you need to be aware of. Next stretch we're going to do is we're going to stretch the muscle that runs from your shoulder up to the bottom part of your head. Let's say you're going to stretch your right side. You're going to use your left hand. You're going to reach over, grab the top of your head, and you're going to slightly stretch it over. Nice and easy. You can feel the stretch from the base of your skull all the way to the back of your shoulder. Now we've gotten two stretches out of the way. Now let's look at a strengthening exercise. Remember, in upper cross syndrome, we've got a muscle called the lower trap that we need to strengthen. So a simple one that you can do sitting at a desk is you should put your hands out at your side like you're holding cups, and then all you're going to do is bring your elbows back and just tuck your elbows into your back pockets. And you're just going to hold it. It's nice and simple, pretty easy. You can do it at your desk. You can pretty much do it wherever. Thanks for watching this video on upper cross syndrome. We hope you learned something that you can apply to your life so you can get back to the things that you enjoy. We really hope to see you in the next video. Have a great day.
This is coincidentally the next one I'm going to show you. So, let's hop up and try some of those. Yeah? I mean, the first one, or not the first one, sorry. The second one, the next stretch, I know I saw you doing it. So let's give that a shot right now. You can do it sitting down. So you want to sit there, think about good posture, and reach across your head, and just lightly pull. Don't overdo it.
How long should we hold it? Did you say? I didn't.
Yeah, so roughly 20 to 30 seconds. I know I can feel it right here, and it's actually kind of going all the way down my back a little bit, so that tells me I should do this more often. So we'll hold that one about 10 more seconds. And we'll switch sides. Yeah, I feel it. Does anybody feel it way more on one side or the other?
Yeah, this side is tighter.
Yeah. Are you left-handed?
I'm ambidextrous.
Okay. So I'm right-handed, and I feel it tighter on my right side.
Yeah.
So that's also something to be conscious of, because depending on whether you're left or right-handed, you probably tend to, develop your muscles more so on one side than the other. So that could lead to a muscle imbalance that could potentially lead to injury later on down the road. All right. How's everybody's neck feel after that? I know my shoulders feel a little looser, so I should obviously start doing these a little more often myself. The next one we're going to do is just the strengthening exercise, which is super simple. You guys can do there sitting. Gonna sit nice and tall, shoulders back and down, and then you're just gonna think about pulling your elbows back, and you're almost gonna be like inching your shoulder blades together and bringing your shoulders back and down. So everybody kind of feel that tightness right underneath your shoulder blades and your mid back.
Bring your hand or your...
So you can use your hands as just kind of a cue to hold here, but you want to think about elbows back and down. You should feel that basically all. 20 to 30 seconds. It's going to help strengthen those muscles in your lower back to counteract the tightness in the muscles in your chest. So it's going to effectively, essentially, like pull your chest upright. As a personal trainer, there's an exercise that I love doing where essentially we're pulling back like this, and it strengthens all the muscles in your back that actually counteract this motion. So like I've actually done that move with clients of mine and seen direct results within a matter of weeks. So it is possible to counteract it if you do it properly. Do you have any questions or anything before we go on to the next set of exercises?
My name is Dr. Stephen Offenberger. I work with the Rossi Rehab Centers, and today we're going to be talking about neck and shoulder pain, but something more specifically called upper cross syndrome. Upper cross syndrome is a set of muscular imbalances that include a weakening and lengthening of the posterior muscles in the back and a tightening and a shortening of the muscles in the front that oppose them. Although you may have never heard of upper cross syndrome, you've definitely seen it. Upper cross syndrome really looks like this. It may be mild, moderate, or extreme. But what we usually find this is in people who sit all day long, whether for work or school. Throughout fatigue throughout the day, the head becomes forward and the shoulders roll forward. And this gives the common symptoms that we see of a sharp burning pain in the shoulder here, maybe some posterior back pain, and a decreased range of motion throughout the neck, and an overall stiffness throughout the upper body. Upper cross syndrome can cause premature arthritis and tissue breakdown. What we're going to be talking about today is one, what's going on in your body, and specifically what's going on with the connective tissue called fascia, and two, what you can do to prevent upper cross syndrome. To fully understand upper cross syndrome, we really need to understand the role that fascia plays in it. We talked earlier about having weak and lengthened muscles in the back and tight muscles through the front. But fascia, as you can see right in through here and here, it actually runs throughout your whole body and thickens in response to these repetitive motions that we do every day. As it becomes too thick, through the posterior muscles right here, it starts to become very sensitive to stretch, causing a burning pain. As it becomes thickened through the front part of the neck, it decreases range of motion throughout the whole anterior shoulder. Fascia doesn't receive a lot of blood supply and is really stubborn to change, but what it does do is repetitive motion. So as you sit all day and slouch, fascia responds to that and molds you into becoming very sensitive to stretch here in the back and thickening through the front to decrease your range of motion. This is what causes most of the pain that you have. Some things for you to know and to do at home is, for one, know where good shoulder and neck position is. When I teach this to patients, I usually explain it like this. Pretend your fingers are screwdrivers and push them into the ground so that it depresses the shoulders. Tuck the chin back and turn your arms out. And this is actually where your body really wants to be and is in good position. Every day, people sit at their desk and their posture looks like this. The best thing to really do, thinking about fascia, is just to reverse all things. So, if you have a TheraBand or something to use, you can just do this. Tuck your chin, sit up straight, your thumbs are together, and as you pull them back, try to tuck your elbows into your back pockets. This depresses the shoulders, rotate the hands out, and hold right here. If you do have a TheraBand, you can wrap it around a door handle, hold it with both hands, wrap it around a few times, and start with this position right here. Stand up straight, tuck your chin, thumbs together, and as you come back, rotate your thumbs outward and try to tuck your elbows into your back pockets. As far as stretches that you can do at home, here's one that I found that's very useful. Tucking your chin and then pretending your head's going to go in a clock fashion and you're going to hit every number. Just pull gently on the side of the head till you feel a slight tug on the opposite side. Hold these stretches for about 20 to 30 seconds, And don't forget to keep the chin tucked. As far as a TheraBand goes, if you have one, this is an exercise that I find useful at the desk. Just holding here, putting a good amount of tension, tucking the chin, and then extending over the TheraBand. Holding each one of these for 5 to 10 seconds and going again in a clockwise fashion. One last thing you can do with the TheraBand is activating the posterior muscles and making them stronger. So taking the TheraBand, wrapping it around the back of your head, and just pushing lightly towards the back. You'd want to repeat this 20 to 30 times and do this 2 to 3 times throughout the day. So we've talked about what's going on in the body and preventative things you can do. But if you haven't been able to prevent upper cross syndrome and are experiencing symptoms, Rossi has a great track record of quickly resolving most musculoskeletal issues, and we'd love to help. Thanks for watching. Have a great day.
I need one of those bands.
Well, funny you should say that. Because
Store prizes. Yay.
should be long enough. So, using your brand new TheraBands, let's try some of the exercises that he was doing. So, yeah. So the one for the stretch was he basically put it right around the base of his neck, like so, and then just proceeded to move it. Yeah. And you should essentially feel the TheraBand apply a little bit of pressure to the muscle tissue. And what we're doing is actually essentially applying that pressure and almost massaging the muscle with the TheraBand, if that makes sense. You guys can probably kind of feel it, right?
Yeah.
It feels like somebody's just kind of sitting there rubbing on the muscle.
Yeah.
Feels good,
Nice.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And then let's move the band up to the base of your head, or sorry, back of your head. And then holding your arms as still as you possibly can. Tuck your chin. And then push your head forward and back. You should feel a lot of those muscles right at the back of your head kind of light up. Everybody kind of feel that?
Mm-hmm. I'm
Yeah.
not sure, how do you do that again? Just like
Yeah.
forward?
And then so you'll basically just push your head forward, up, back like so. So you want to, so you're just moving your head. Just moving your head. So the head is the only part that's moving. The rest of you should be staying still. Yeah. Another one that I really like that he kind of did, but he attached it around a doorknob. You can do it around a doorknob. Can I borrow somebody's really quick? You can do it around a doorknob, but essentially the main thing that we want to focus on is because we spend so much time closed over like this, we want to do exercises that focus on opening our hands and opening our chest and pulling our head up. So essentially we're counteracting this static posture with the exact opposite of the motion, if that makes sense, right? So I like to do one where it's essentially you have the band would be underhanded like this. And imagine like you were holding a dowel rod or just a pole or a pool cue or something along those lines, and you're trying to stretch out like that. But we're using our shoulders to do it, and I can already feel it in the back of my shoulders here. Oh.
I was like, what exercise can you do for real deltoids?
Mm-hmm. This works really well for that. It also works if you really get your shoulders and chest into it, you'll start to feel it pulling across everything. So these are great exercises just to increase the blood flow in that area. And, you know, like he was talking about fascia, getting that fascia moving so that, you know, we're making sure that it's not getting impinged and it's not getting tight and causing pain and stuff like that. There's all different kinds of stuff you guys can do with these bands. Like, you know, you saw what he did. You can attach it or wrap it around a doorknob or something and do the same thing, just kind of pull apart and open up. But all these things, you know, are gonna help you guys hopefully avoid and counteract any TechNeck issues you might have. Cool. So here's some of the sources that I used for this. Really easy to find more information Also, there's a lot more videos. Rossi is a great tool that I use. They're actually in the Houston area. That's actually where I go to get some of my chiropractic work done, so I'm a big fan. That's kind of why I use their videos. Also, I really think they know what they're talking about.
I was going to ask that. I need a new chiropractor.
You work for UHD?
Yeah.
They're included in our insurance.
Oh, cool. That's awesome.
So we get to go. Yeah. So there's all types of information out there. The main thing I would ask is that you make sure it's a reputable source. So unless they have doctor or PhD or chiropractor or physical therapy in their name, I would tend to kind of shy away from using their information. But they definitely, these little TheraBands, you can roll it up, stick it in your backpack, and if you start to kind of feel tight in class or something, you can even like just kind of pull it out and do a little bit of exercises. And the best thing is it'll be kind of subtle, so nobody's going to sit there and be like, what is this person doing with a green rubber band? I appreciate you guys all coming to our presentation on TechNeck. Are there any questions? Would you like to know anything else about it, or any other exercises, or pertaining to this? I don't want to jump down the wormhole.
Heat versus ice.
Depends.
I know.
So
I always get that confused, and I'm like,
it depends on the situation, and it depends on the location. I recently injured my back, and normally for the musculature, I would think to use heat to get the muscle to loosen up, but if it's a spinal issue, you actually don't want that because it can cause swelling in the cord, which would potentially cause more pain. Because if it's a nerve affection, then the heat can cause more pain. So in that case, you would actually want to use ice.
So if you got a sore neck.
If you got a sore neck, if it feels like it's muscle and stuff like that, I would use heat, but not very long and not for necessarily an extended period of time. The confusing thing is like there's a lot of research coming out going both directions on what to use and when. So, if heat makes it feel a little bit better and it makes the tissue warm up a little bit and it makes it more pliable to stretch, that's why we do warm-ups for our workouts, because by increasing the temperature of the muscle tissue, you're decreasing the likelihood of tearing or pulling something. So if you're going to use heat, I would actually do some stretches with it. Like if you've ever stretched in a hot tub or a sauna before, it feels so much better. So that would be a recommendation just to try out. Yeah. Anybody have anything else? I'm going to make the drawing real quick so you guys can see who won the fantastic prize. We have Jesse.
Hey, what is the fantastic prize?
So you get to choose from one of our UHD sports and fitness items over here.
Cool.
Well, again, thank you guys for coming, and if you don't have any more questions, that is all we have. Next week we will be having our cancer prevention presentation, so make sure to stop by for that, as I don't know, many of you know.